Hi, Sewing Mastery fans. I'm Sara from sewingmastery.com, and today I'm going to just do a little reminiscing and tell you about a trip I took recently where the answer was always yes. Now, I do have some sewing parts to this for you to enjoy. First off, I ran into a Sewing Mastery fan on the airplane. She was so excited, and we got to meet up at a location that we were both at later in the week. We've also talked about saying yes to more of what you want to do. Now, I know when you say yes to things, sometimes we say yes, but it's for other people's things. So I'm going to tell you a few stories along the way of things to help you maybe say yes to what you want to do. Maybe it's yes to taking an online course with me this coming year. Maybe it's saying yes to the grandkids when they've asked you to come to the 29th basketball game of this single season. Say yes to things that matter. Plus, we were on a sailboat, and I want to show you where and which sewing machine I found tucked in and underneath a certain special place on the boat. And you'll see Pebbles, who my daughter crocheted for me, who made a few appearances along the way and was my little friend to stick in my backpack and travel with me as a little reminder of home. Now, I know a lot of you had trips planned during COVID and they got put on hold, and that was exactly what this trip was for us. So this past week was the bucket list sailing trip in the British Virgin Islands, no less, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And we came up with this little saying along the way of just say yes. Okay, do you want another drink? Yes. And it kind of went on from there. And you can only imagine what humorous topics got covered when you always said yes. I did a couple things that I'd always wanted to do, such as jumping off the back of the Willie T's boat. And that was definitely a bucket list. I knew I didn't want to miss it. And have you ever been on a trip where you get home and you go, gosh, I wish I had done that? So that was the concept here. Just say yes.
I need to suck it in, don't I?
No, you look good, don't you?
You got it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Another thing I got to do was when you're at the Soggy Dollar Bar is that you anchor your boat and you swim to the beach. And we had anchored quite a ways away, but that's what you do. When you're there, that's the thing to do. You swim to the bar and enjoy your day on beach.
You swam from the boat.
So I was the only one that did the swimming, but I'm like, well, of course it's going to swim. It was a beautiful day, and there the salt water is very buoyant. So even if you couldn't swim a lot or didn't feel like you were a confident swimmer, you floated, which was awesome. Now, let me get back to that Sewing Mastery fan that I ran into. So we're on our connecting flight from Atlanta to St. Thomas, and I'm boarding the plane, and as I come around the door to get to my seat, I hear Sara in this Alabama accent. And you know those Southerners, they just get so excited. Well, of course, I'm like, hi, and come to find out, she's like, you're my person I take classes from online. I've mastered my Bernina because of you, and blah, blah, blah. And there's people lined up behind us. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Let's get to our seats and then we'll come back. So Marcia, this is your shout out because you spotted me that very early morning as you also had said yes to your vacation, which, wow, you had an amazing trip yourself. So a little bit into the flight, I got up and I went back to where they were sitting. Her and her husband were traveling, and I started talking. He goes, oh yeah, that's her, isn't it? So how many of you have husbands who hear my videos in your background and would know me by my voice or by what I'm talking about versus probably what I look like? Because he didn't recognize me at all. But he said later, oh yeah, I recognize her voice. So we were able to, later in the week, find an island where we would both be at. And we got to have a wonderful chat of what she does in her sewing room, how much she's learned from all of her videos, and it was truly kind of fun to meet somebody on my trip who recognized me from our YouTube videos. So for any reason I'm out and about and you spot me, please stop me and say hi. You'll probably make my day. Now, I did mention there was a sewing machine on board, and so I found where they have tucked it away, and I said, where is the sewing machine? And they said, well, here it is. It's actually underneath their bed, and every little corner on a sailboat is premium space. And so with that, she takes me into her bedroom and she lifts up the bed, and sure enough, there was the sewing machine right where she could get to it. She could set it up on the dining room table. She could do the sewing she needed. Look what I found in the crazy water boat. It is a Husqvarna Viking Emerald 118. I told you that's the machine that will go through anything. Hidden underneath the front berth. She even recovered all of her cushions in the boat. I mean, it's amazing what you find sewers will do when it's kind of a necessity. I mean, those are custom upholstery covers, and when they bought the boat, it was one of those things that it was probably a good idea to kind of refresh all the upholstery, and they looked beautiful. So the sewing machine is the Husqvarna Viking Emerald 118. Now, I have done a video where I was on the docks here in South Dakota where I was repairing kind of a boat cover. So we'll link up to that video right up here. You can go check that out. And then we've also done videos on that machine. It's just a solid machine. It just can go through just about anything and can be kind of tucked away. And yeah, she had the case, and the styrofoam that was originally in there is kind of tucked so nothing wiggles while they are traveling. Now, there is a movie recently made with Jennifer Gardner called Yes Day. And if this is a fun, like family-friendly movie, it's kind of a unique idea, stemmed from a children's book, also by the same name of Yes Day. Now, there's International Yes Day and there's National Yes Day. So technically, there's 2 calendar dates you could totally pull this off. But why just have 2 days in a year that you do a Yes Day? Do it whenever possible. If this means for you that when you go to buy your next sewing machine, that you actually, instead of buying the one you think you're gonna buy, you buy one just one step up, one more model up. Believe me, we've never said, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Usually it's always like, oh, I'm so glad I took that extra step. But it's hard for us. And so with that, when you can, take that extra step. And that actually reminds me of a story. It was a friend of ours, and he would take his grandkids like on vacation, and he never told them this, but he had in his mind his own yes day. So if they wanted to stop for ice cream, the answer was yes. If you want to buy a shirt and a gift shop, sure. The answer was yes. But he didn't ever tell them that, so they never like took advantage of it, knowing that he would always say yes. And they never really figured it out till a long time later. I mean, if you have that opportunity to say yes, say yes. And enjoy your life. Life is short. You never know when you're not going to be able to say yes. So say yes sooner than later. And what got me to jump off that super high bar called Willie T's in the British Virgin Islands? Well, last summer, I was at a new pool with my daughter and her friends, and there was a high dive. And her friend said to me, hey, you want to go off the high dive with me? And I said, yes. Well, when it's been a few years since you've been at your, childhood pool with a high dive, and you get up to that top part, it's much higher than you realize. But guess what? I wasn't going to be the mom that went down the high dive because she couldn't handle it. So there was only one way off, and I did it. And that friend said, oh my gosh, your mom is so cool. She went off the diving board with me. And so with that, I realized that might as well say yes. It's going to be more fun. And guess what they're going to remember? They're going to remember that experience where you actually did something that they might not have thought that you would do. So whether it's sewing and taking an online course, maybe it's buying a new sewing machine, embroidery machine, or serger that you've always dreamed of getting but just couldn't justify it, say yes. And let us know in the comments what you have said yes to. Or maybe your husband recognizes my voice and knows which videos you've been watching because he knows me and recognizes my voice like from the old-fashioned dating game where like, oh yeah, I know who she is, but never actually knows what I look like. So whatever your comment is, I hope you will leave one for us. Maybe a yes story, a which machine did you think you were going to buy but didn't because you bought something bigger and better and how you fell in love with it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. I've got to get back to filming some new machines starting this afternoon, and I can't wait to help you become a better sewer because you've said yes to always learning one more thing. Now you are going to see Brenda's sewing room coming up soon. They are finishing building their house and a beautiful room has been designated for her sewing studio. Her new machines, cabinets, and sergers, I think, are all in our warehouse right over here, just waiting for them to take possession of their new house. And I will bring you that tour of her sewing room studio, and we'll have her explain why she picked out which cabinets she picked, and you'll get to see which machines she also said yes to.